Okay, great. All right. Well, welcome. Welcome for coming. I'm actually supposed to see a kid here. That's like way cool. My sons would be here, but they're down fishing right now, so that's all cool. All right. This talk is to strengthen the cybersecurity program. My name is Grammars. My fault, not my vendors, not my companies. I work for a company called Meditude. We just got purchased by Lloyd's Register, a rather large shipping company that found it more economical and better to purchase and run a company for the cybersecurity program than just to try to build it in-house. As I said, who I am, I'm a management, excuse me, don't like talking in front of you crowds, so apologize for that. I'm a managing principal security consultant. I've been mostly working in IT since 1989. I've been a programmer, an IT manager, system admin, SOC analyst, now a security consultant. I hold multiple certificates, malware, threat intelligence, web application, infrastructure testing. Essentially, I'm just a jack of all trades. Contact people are there. Any questions or concerns will be addressed at the end. You'll have to be addressed at the end. In reality, what I want to be is a foreman, but you just can't live being a foreman nowadays. So, just out of curiosity, how many in here are pen testers? You're yourself a pen tester. That's all right, a little of this may be repetitive. How many are blue team, SOC analysts? Just one, two, excellent. Everyone else just general IT managers, just hobbyists looking for information? Excellent. All right, so hopefully each one of you will get something out of this talk. In general, this talk is, I'm going to try to stay still for a moment. So over the next 15 minutes or so, we're just going to cover a few things. The first couple we're just going to go through quickly, just as a point of base, what is the cybersecurity landscape? Things I see time and time again in these engagements, be it a multi-billion-dollar company or be it a small mom-and-pop shop that has a PCI compliancy issue. The same issues come up time and time again that lead us to gain a compromise. Some of the flaws I see in the current programs that we have are educating our users, the education of the employees. In short, they're never trained to see the abnormal or report the abnormal. It's something that I see, as I said, time and time again. Who is that guy who's walking around the floor? Who is that woman? Never seen him before. Why would I get this email in? Why did this pop-up just happen on my window? I've never seen that message before. So these abnormalities are the first line of defense for your users. And these are things that I've seen that, if people are aware, can actually help stop and secure an incident. All right. So the current cyber landscape. Some of this is fact and some of this is personal opinion, much like everything else. We can argue at the bar later about what is true and what's not. So one of the things is, each of us system admins, they have a silo of information, and they have a silo of concern. Network admins have a silo of information, a silo of concern. You may think, I'm a red teamer, I'm an offensive guy, why am I always in the blue tracks? Because you have silos of information that I want to know. And this will help us move forward. All right. As I see current cyber attacks, advanced threat actors, I'm going to differ in this definition of you. Any company that you hire to do a penetration test or go against your company, they have their hardware, they have their methodologies, they have their favorite ways of gaining compromises. That's all a threat actor is. In advanced, they have some nation-state tools. They have some ODAs, they have some undisclosed vulnerabilities, and they have the resources to hide their tracks better. As I said, I work for a UK-based company, and we have nation-state tooling. Why? We pay the right people that are nice guys that write this stuff for us. Will you see this day in, day out? No. This is not an everyday concern. Being non-government, most businesses are never going to have to worry about advanced threat actors. Unless you're dealing with a contractor or a company that is the target. So, and I'll show you an example of that. Will you be dealing with O days? No. The main concern that you, as professionals, IT professionals, you're going to be dealing with 1 days. As the last gentleman here pointed out, between the Blue and the Equifax hacks, the code is being written, that's what is being released, that's what's going to be hitting your environments. So we're going to go over some tools, methodologies, and thoughts on how you can better protect yourself. Phishing emails, yeah, you're going to see phishing emails. That's just the way it is. Physical entry is difficult. Getting somebody to download what I want is so much easier, and we're going to go through some of that. Password spray attacks. Time and time again, we're just getting compromised because of one of the simple, stupid passwords that users use, okay? And we're going to go through, again, methodologies on this. A summer 2018 with a large enough sample pool is getting the access into your systems. It's just that simple. It's just, yeah, it really is. I mean, this has been said time and time again. You've heard this 4 times today, at least, on this. But password spray attacks against web portals, against places just happen. I just went against the company, or currently on an engagement where they just loaded their passwords. Well, we had one user reset the password. I gained access to the systems through summer 2018. It's just, it works. Unpacked software, yeah. This happens, this goes with the 1 days plus. We're going to see, and we're going to talk about what quote unquote advanced threat actors or even script kids are doing to be able to detect very quickly. And the stuff I'm going to talk about is not earth science, it's not rock science, this is stuff that's been talked about time and time again. Literally, it has not been changed since I was knee-high with my dad. Okay? Unencoded data, yeah. This is your cross-site script and SQL injection, code command injection, those type of things on the web applications that are just not being done because of bad hygiene system development. And one thing about the current cyber attacks, everything is a copycat. It comes down to where I'm seeing time and time again, and you may be seeing the same thing. It's hackers imitating hackers. Somebody releases something at DEF CON, it's the next latest and hottest and greatest thing that's coming down the line. Very few originalities. Again, this is what businesses, common businesses are seeing. I'm not talking about the Defense Department or state agencies that are holding the electronic database right now. But for the most part, a lot of the things you're going to see time and time again is just a copycat of something that just came out. Yeah. Let's go. Okay. Current state of cybersecurity programs, again, as I see them as a tester. Things that are being done. Well, you've got Patch Tuesday. Microsoft releases a patch. Business cycles every 30 days. They'll put it in every quarter, depending on the systems. You have good tools that will see this, Rapid7, Nessus, Microsoft built-in tools, take care of it. What's normally missing out of this is your third-party products, your Adobe's, your Oracle databases. These are products that just are not patched because they don't have an easy patch, or you're just told, I can't touch it. I used to be a system admin for Oracle DBAs. I understand the complexity of Oracle. It's a very good system, no slander involved. It just trying to get the patches in place was bad. That's all I'm going to say about that. Code development. Now code lifecycle is actually being implemented. Software development lifecycle is actually being taken seriously. But this is like your typical pen test. You roll out a product, you got a web application that's being rolled out, a mobile app. You go ahead and design it. Maybe there's some standards there, maybe they're not. You'll develop it, and you'll have it tested by code testers. And that's actually pretty good. And on the software side, it is actually getting a lot better. And then what we have is no copyright infringement here. Lots of bells and whistles. We have all the wonderful tools with, firewalls and firmware and wafts and all that other good stuff. Time and time again, what is causing the system's failures is the human element. Between systems being brought up, between the human error, bad passwords, not changing the default password. I just need to get this done. It is Saturday, and I want to go home. Just put the printer on, give it an admin password, we'll fix it later. Those are all those different types of human error that I see. All right, what I do not see, that's sorry, as I said. But inside, you also have your Splunks and your IDSs and those monitoring things. Things that are not being done, it's not being tuned, it's not being looked at from somebody who looks at it as an attacker. So they're not being tuned for the abnormal to see what is not being what is off the baseline of normal. Cybersecurity awareness training, the employees are being trained, typical little things. Oh, watch out for the enabled content. That's bad. Hover over the links, that type of stuff. Employees are being failed to think. What is abnormal? Why have I just gotten this invite from this vendor? Why did the company send me a Dropbox invite to click on something? So they're not being trained to think and to view the abnormal. They're really just being looked at, memorize this picture, don't do this. Maybe you're going as far as, we're jumping ahead. Things that are overlooked in cybersecurity programs, and this is nothing against Proofpoint, they're a very good vendor, and they are actually causing me some headaches today. SSO services that you have available. Businesses have third-party programs, third-party services. These have portals. Now, OWA, Office 365, was normally taxed, normally looked at. Well, it's drying up, but any organization that has an SSO service like a spam filter can potentially be brute force, the password's correct. Are you looking at those type of things in your programs? For example, this Proofpoint needs a pull requirement out of your AD. Well, if you're not monitoring for this service coming in, can somebody brute force that service to get a password in? Answer is yes and that. Hidden in shadow infrastructure. Time and time again, developers bring up development systems. They just spin it up in the Amazon cloud, Azure, whatever. They have valid credentials in it. How are you monitoring for this shadow infrastructure? Beautiful thing I love, building services. High-rise buildings in Manhattan, love, this is nothing against the DIRS organization, again, not slandering, just, you can find out everything about this building. So if you have to compromise a building or a vendor in the building, and you need to know the information, well, everything you need to know about a client in the DIRS organization is actually on their website. The cleaning people are internal, so you're not going in as ABM. They're the telephone numbers, the individuals of security, that's all there. And this is what is normally overlooked by IT professionals, just like the shadow infrastructure at AWS. Again, nothing wrong with Castle. They are a RIF provider, a building access provider. Okay? Anyone protected by them, they do apartment buildings and they do building security. Everything you need to know about their RIF system is there. What's worse is that's a single factor portal. This has been talked to them about it, so it's being recorded and now they get sued. But any building that has this vendor, it is implied to an attacker, that's a shared password. Now, if I can get that password, I don't need to worry about the turnstiles. I don't need to worry about, mimicking the building security or the front desk, because I can register myself or any vendor in to get in at any time. Or I can steal your badges, because your badges are there. Again, nothing wrong with them, just putting forward things that are overlooked in the current cybersecurity programs that I see. That are you addressing as IT professionals? If you are pen testers, I have to say a lot of my engagements, our scopes are very liberal in the engagements themselves, meaning we can target anything that can actually compromise certain clients. Another thing that's overlooked, time and time again, password auditing programs. People just don't, and it's not complicated, how to audit your pets programs. And this comes out of Foster's that 80% of all cybersecurity attacks involved were a weak or stolen password. The Adobe still pays off. We still compromise certain vendors because a password is inside the Adobe breach. It's maybe happens right now about once a year. Before, it was a couple times a year. We could actually find a password that somebody was using that was so similar or repeating of it. And I'm talking about websites, state agencies. These are things that, as IT professionals, need to be looked at. And we're going to go over some easy tools that an IT professional can actually use. So you don't need to worry about John the Ripper. You don't need to worry about, how am I going to get my database, my passwords out of my database. There's actually some tools that make it very easy for individuals, but there doesn't seem to be a password auditing program in corporations with the policies and procedures. Another thing that's overlooked, really, it's just system hardening. We know what we have to do. IT professionals have all the guidelines. It's written out in this. We talk about labs. Don't share a password, admin password. Egress filtering. Time and time again, first time you go into a company and send them a reconnaissance email that has a web bug that sends a password has an SMB hash back out to the internet, and they leave 445 open. I mean, really, it's 2017. And I will say it, because we do our own testing, we don't know when it's happening, but we're under our constant testing because we are a cybersecurity company and the data we hold. Up to 2 years ago, that was allowed to happen, and we know better. So the amount of times that we actually see 445 exposed is ridiculous, and it's a shameful act. Restricting egress communications down to the 80, the 443, the 53 on the port, sorry if you don't know, 53 is DNS. Just those individual servers that go out and are authorized to communicate help you, the IT professional, detect the abnormality. I don't have the slide deck in here, but one of the attack vectors is using DNS. Well, if a workstation is communicating over DNS, that's abnormal. But if it was blocked, we would then at least be able to see alerts in different locations that this abnormality is happening. It's not rocket science, it's just, as I don't tell you time and time again, to talk, I'm not a smart man. I just know certain things that work. And long story short, running systems with UAC, restricted profile, this is going to help you IT professionals for the longest road. We may be able to get in, but if we can't do anything on that system because it's actually properly hardened, or we have to raise the noise at such a level that you can actually see it. But these are things that are overlooked. And this is nothing new. This is not rocket science. This is nothing that you haven't heard time and time again. But frankly, it's just not being done. All right, some exploitation of the landscape before we get into tools. And again, this is just some of my favorite things that I enjoy doing. Some of it hopefully is educational, some of it is just, simple stuff. Unpatched services, here's a Run SQL injection. Yep, it works. Again, my scopes are not sometimes directly at the company. This was actually a system hosted by the company in GoDaddy. We're very careful what happens once we're there, but because they had a third-party company managing their website, they've left this line SQL injection unpatched. It creates one, excuse my language, it's a cheap word. You know, it's nothing that's advanced, you know. Am I an advanced threat actor? No, but I can pop your web server, I can now post my malicious code on there. I can use it to communicate. Are you watching traffic to your website from this activity? If not, you know, we also have the database, the passwords, password reuse, can we crack and blah, 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 right? But it makes a really great cheap water and hole attack. Yeah, phishing, all right? Phishing is getting more complicated. It's no longer these days, okay? With the advent of a program called Let's Encrypt, Let's Encrypt gives you free SSL certificates. So no more is it $200 or $300, it's free. So everything is encrypted. Everything has an SSL, everything goes by Google's check on the bad site because it's not using the latest and greatest encryption. We're using redirection with Apache. You know, we're making sure that what's coming in, we're reading it, we're making sure that we're giving you a payload that's worked right. And I know you're looking going, yeah, that's not anything really exciting. We're using rewrite rules to throw off your users. So, you know, they're trained to see, oh, Word document included. Well, actually, we're going to send you an HTA, but it's not going to have the URL because we're just going to rewrite it on the fly. We're going to rewrite the payload because all of a sudden we're seeing different signatures come in. That's a Mac environment when we thought it was a Windows environment. So this is day-to-day stuff that happens that as IT professionals you may not be aware because of the fact that silos of information. Macros, we're moving beyond macros. Actually, unless we're requested to put a macro inside a Word document, we don't. There's just so many easier ways to get in. And actually, I'm currently on an engagement where I have to do a macro because they want to test out their detection. And it was being picked up by Windows Defender. Well, I just sat upstairs, and I have to investigate this more, but I put in the 0xCC as in the string, just to try it. It went right through these signatures. I didn't change any of the file systems or anything else. So I'm just curious if Windows Defender has an issue with a break statement. 0xCC is a break, hex break command inside assembler. Again, I'm not saying that's an OD or some bypass, but I just found out that was curious that this code that was just caught up by Windows Defender, just by putting that little change into a string statement, that has nothing to change anything else, all of a sudden passes it. So it's something that's interesting. All right, I'm digressing. Okay, so macros do come in, but we move beyond it. There's an Excel DDE, okay? Using the spreadsheets. There's PowerPoint. These are not published, but because of the user's awareness, they're looking for Word documents. They're failing to see everything else. Phishing, I love this one. Exchange.com. You got OWA? Do you own your company's name, Exchange? How often do people in the office, employees, see the word exchange? So when it comes and it looks like it's internal, you know, it's just something that's, you know, yeah, we get users that are, you know, getting the banners that say it's outside of the company and stuff of that nature, but, you know, those are easy enough to get around. We found certain organizations, they're filtering on certain content, they see the banner, but are they filtering on every single OU, domain OU? Are they filtering on orgs or EDUs? Organizations that typically do not have the cyber maturity, not slandering, but do not have SPF records or other protections in place, and it causes more of a headache or not. So sometimes system admins just bypass it and say, okay, anything from an EDU domain or an organization domain, we're going to let it through without a banner because of the fact that it's legitimate or XYZ. What also ends up happening in our phishing, employees are not prepared for the HTAs. If you're not familiar, HTA is a Microsoft web format, but it bypasses the sandbox. So if you can actually convince a user to say allow to run this program, it bypasses the sandbox and it runs at system level. It's trivial and it's been around for 8 years, 10 years, you know, and we're still using it today. Users are not being taught when they're phishing, oh, we control the website that they went to. So we're popping up, hey, outdated browser, install this. Hey, out. Again, they're not trained to think that this is abnormal. What should I do about it? They're also not trained about Java. Oh, Java requires code signing. I have code signing certificates in my name. You can go right now to Google and UPS store with Komodo, fill out a piece of paperwork, they'll validate who you are, and you'll get a code signing cert. Trivial. You know, you don't need a business to form a business to get a code signing cert. It's not, for pen testers, it's not an EVO, but it is a personal one, and it bypasses Microsoft and all the other ones. So if you are pen testers, having a personal code signing cert, or with your kids, or you know, your wife, it's really trivial to get with Komodo. Don't know how long that's going to last, but most of all, employees are not prepared for that strange feeling. They know when something's just not right, but for whatever reason, it may be a policy or procedure, it may be personalities. I was an IT system admin. We are a mean, rough group. We don't like users that break our stuff. We have it working, and why can't they figure it out? So they sometimes just don't want to come to us with that strange feeling. It took me a really long time to get to be a nice person as far as system admin. But, oh well. Another thing, you know, as pen testers, using the web authentication. Okay, you are using Proofpoint. You're using a third-party vendor. You don't allow anything in. But because of reconnaissance, we know you have single-factor portals. Well, what about using just the web authentication header that when they visit the malicious website, they're getting popped up with the password, you know? And since we control exactly what, we control what actually will say here, we can feed it right in. Because we control what the web authentication header will say to them. And it will potentially prompt them, and they will provide us the passwords. So, again, it's a simple little trick that time and time again, because users are not trained to say, hey, this has never popped up before. What is actually going on here? And again, it gives you the credentials to get in without sending some sort of email, without sending some sort of payload in a document or something that can get caught and executable. There's other ones, obviously. There's web proxy authenticated and other tricks. Actually, the tool Fishery used this same method, but it embedded this inside the Word document itself with the XML code to generate the same thing. I just decided that it was nice inside the XML, but that could get caught by Microsoft detections, so I just moved it outside, and now it works against any sort of document I want to send in. Okay, getting employees to malicious sites. Well, you know, that's actually Office 365 secure document. All right, you know, read it, click on it, send it in. That's Dropbox, you know, click on it. So getting the employees to the malicious site is not hard. The issue is, are they being trained to spot something abnormal? You know, like this one came in as, hey, this is the business sending you a secure document about the new summer hours. Does that make sense? Would a business send you a Dropbox? Does your employees know that is abnormal? Same thing with the secure document. This was, you know, some random person sending you a secure document. Why? That's abnormal. right. Or better yet, going back to the reference of the other one, this is how I gained access to one console portal to a building. I just sent that to the receptionist. And it was from a person that was a senior, but it was just a very simple, hey, I can't log into the portal. Can you probably need the password to the visitor portal? Because of the building and because of reconnaissance, I was positive that was a shared password. Everyone in the office knew it. How many people in your office knows the password to the Wi-Fi? How many people would receive an email from their boss or from a friend, hey, my computer just can't log into the Wi-Fi. What is it? It works. Web services, again, you have two-factor authentication on your OWA. This is quite famous right now because of the fine gentlemen and ladies at Black Hills Security have done some really fine work pointing out how this is a web service that is single factor. It's a very simple one to brute force. Linked is the same thing, Skype Business, same thing. Not picking on them that they do a bad job. It's a web service. It requires authentication. It happens to be a single factor. And it's in BASIC. So if you don't know what BASIC is, that's just a 64-bit encoding of username, password. Makes it trivial with tools like Burp or even OWASP stat proxy to be able to generate the list of users and to brute force again with that summer 2016, 2018. As I said, Black Hills Security, TrustSec, TrustWave, MDSec all have done some really good work on it. So I take no credit as dropping unknown code or whatever here. This is out there. And the point is not to say that this is bad and this is the wrong way to do it. It's just information, breaking out of the silos of information. And here is just a brute force using Burp. Very quickly, you can see status 200 HTML code means it's good to go. 401 means that it's a valid user, but the password was bad. So it takes nothing for an attacker or for yourselves to use these tools to be able to brute force or find it. But we're going to talk about easier tools. We're going to get to that stuff. And how bad is it? How overlooked is this stuff? Well, we may remember back, this is going back to 2014, Apple had brute forcing protections, but not on their APIs. So the hackers, threat actors were able to get into these celebrities' photographs because of brute forcing protections were off, single factor authentication on their APIs because they overlooked it. Excuse me. Okay, so you may be thinking to yourself, how do these attackers know these attack surfaces? Well, here's Cisco AnyConnect, which is the VPN. When I ran it, there's potentially 369,000 exposed ports that potentially have single-factor authentication against businesses that could be used. NetScaler, Citrix environment, again, simple little Google hack or Google dork, and you have potentially 102,000. What I find beautiful about these things is businesses want to be helpful. IT departments want to be helpful, especially certain organizations, education institutions, those type of institutions. They publish everything you need to know about how to authenticate against these services on certain clients. And we're going to talk about information disclosure in a moment. Now, as I went on and on and on, actually probably why you all came here, tools and actions to strengthen. As I said, time and time again, after we've done through these engagements, we normally have a debrief, and sometimes we have a sit-down lesson with the clients on how we did and got into these organizations. I enjoy those type of things, but the certain fact remains, time and time again, IT professionals, even trained blue teamers, are overlooking certain things that allow threat actors to get in. Now, we're going to talk about a few of them, and depending on your skill levels, what you can do about it to make your job easier in the long run, and my job easier, so I don't have to write the report. So, one thing that time and time again, I find that organizations don't do, they don't know their cybersecurity footprint. They do not know their exposed assets, services, and hosts that are out there. They have never assessed what information disclosures are being published. The marketing department has gone out. Again, not picking on any organization or anything. Major vendors love to have you, the customer, tout their products. And they usually stick it on YouTube. Do a real quick look up GE and SCADA and see how many vendors are out there on YouTube showing you their technology, showing the physical plants that this technology is running, just showing you everything you need to do to break into that or cause them harm. And I'll show you. Did it move?
Punch it.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, sorry. All right, we're going to go through some metadata, that type of stuff. And again, this is stuff that's been around for years. But again, we use this every single day to get this data. And IT professionals and blue teamers, again, the silo information, they have never thought how to assess that data can be used against an organization. How the marketing department releasing their data can actually be used against the organization. And this is part of the reason why I'm here to talk, because of the fact that sharing is fun, and I like to know what you know, and I like to share what I know. One word of warning though, if you are going to start assessing your cyber profile, as employers, don't analyze your employees' social media. Just don't do it. Use a third-party vendor for that type of analysis. Anything that involves personal data with your employees, don't do it, because you will find very quickly a lot of embarrassing things about your employees or your clients. So it's better that we, as a third-party vendor, Digital Gothams next door, or Grace Securities outside, using one of these organizations to actually do threat intelligence against your employees to see will save you litigations and headaches. As a system admin, everybody was concerned I was reading their email. Well, my concern was what you do it through the email, but that's not. All right. Something that, as IT members, this is something we use when we do our own threat intelligence. Frameworks can help you when you look at doing this type of stuff, and we're going to go through some tools and stuff. This is just typical stuff we look at when we do threat intelligence or an organization looking at them. What is the market? What are the likely threat actors? All right, everybody thinks that they're protecting against state actors. If you're an oil company, you're more likely to be attacked by hacktivists, individuals that are very passionate about what you're doing. Can you protect against yourself? And those type of individuals, they're not running ODAs. They're running Empire, they're running Metasploit, they're running, they might customize a few things to get buys and signatures, but they're not running, an ODA dropping nation-state stuff. What is the political landscape? Scenarios are what we come up with. We look at people, and when we look at people, we use a lot of resources to really find some really embarrassing things about people they use against them. That's why I'm saying you don't want to do it. You don't want to be facing the CFO that has a drug driving conviction that no one knew about, and you're sitting there as an employee going, this is bad. All right. Password analysis, as I said time and time again. Adobe works. These compromises work because users change their passwords to things very similar, or, as I said, we're still using passwords directly from certain individuals in certain marketplaces. Yeah, they just don't think anything about their passwords, and to be able to do things like deface websites because it's a nice fashion blog, And login was something that was released, 4 or 5 years ago, and they still use the same password. It's there. Okay, so I said enough of that. But again, a general framework helps you focus. Really for yourselves, you'd be looking at, like general onus, historical breaches, password analysis, those type of things, document analysis. You really, without professionals that are trained to actually weed through the needles in the haystack, it becomes very difficult. Now, but as cybersecurity professionals, there's a site, Have I Been Pwned? Domain search. You as a company owner of the domain, can actually be notified if your users' passwords or corporate email addresses are showing up as been in a breach. This is, again, something simple to use. It allows you to have conversations with these individuals to make sure that, hey, by chance, it wasn't the same password, right? Or it's not similar to what we have in the corporate network. The search engines and GoDaddy, or search engines, Google's good. Voodoo is better. I pronounced that wrong, I apologize. The Chinese one, this one doesn't honor any sort of like robotics text or anything else like that. I find that that one is a lot more informative for companies. There's good projects, like Project Sonar by Rapid7, that goes out and maps the internet. Maps your public address spaces, the banners, the ports that are open. Sys.io, they do the same thing, but they've gone corporate, they've gone commercial, so it's a little limited on what you could use with them. But essentially, those two do the same thing as Shodan.io. Again, nothing rocket science Shodan, it's out there, but that is going to be your first place when you get it one day that people are going to do this. Larger organizations run their own type of programs that gather up this information. We have our own banners, I'm sure Digital Gotham probably does, I'm sure Grace Security, so this is not unique thinking to us. Going out and grabbing every single port we can see. We just scan everything. We grab the banners, we have honeypots, and this is what we do. Shodan will show you, and this is a granddaddy of them all. I wish I could say I stopped using it because it doesn't work anymore, but I'll give you an example in a couple of slides. That's something that we actually popped a customer about 8 months ago because of data that was in Shodan that they were not aware of. So that's something that's public information. As I said, what is in YouTube? Oh, you use Dell workstations. Oh, the dress code. How do you look? What shirts do you wear? What is your corporate logo? Potentially, all that is good stuff is in there. What kind of voiceover, software, etc. Documents and metadata. We'll go over that. Tools you can use to see that. Mobile apps are really good. Mobile apps get developed at a turn of a dime nowadays. Everything has a mobile app. New York State Cyber Conference had a mobile app. DEF CON had a mobile app. RSA had a mobile app. RSA, mobile app, use S3 buckets. Amazon buckets. They forgot to secure it. Everybody's accounting information out there on the web. These are things that people are looking at because of the fact that mobile apps are written where they can be compiled. If it's a Java app, it's trivial. If it's an Apple, it's a little harder, but not that much more difficult. One tool that for IT managers that gets your foot started is a tool called Recon NG by Tim Tomes. His handle is Landmaster53. It is a very good tool, even without getting all the APIs for it, to begin to learn about your cyber footprint. It has a number of modules that are easy to have delimit, and he does train in the local area. Like I've seen him training at B-Side Boston, Source Boston. If you're interested in that tool, it is very, very helpful. I'm giving it. I'll make sure I don't forget anything. This is where I was saying about Shodan. This data is available. This is one of the first stops that you have your low-end threat actors going to to find out this data about your company. And I've seen companies go ahead and say, oh, we're just going to block Showdown because they banned it, blah, blah, blah. That's not actually fixing the problem. Personally, I think this is a good service because of the fact that you can go in there, you can set up your filters for business owners and see what is actually being seen by attackers. It is eyes for you to use. And as I said, the Cisco Smart Install was not a vulnerability by Cisco for, I don't know, about 5 or 6 months. It was an advisory. Well, what you could actually do is use this tool and pull the config of switches right off, as long as you can get the FTP port from the internet. Well, that was still when it was an advisory. It took Cisco a few months while it was actively being exploited before they pulled it from an advisory to actually a critical, because of the fact that it's a triple matter to pull the Cisco config. And what's in the Cisco configs? Admin passwords, router passwords, or well, it's a switch. But how often are these network devices reusing the same password? So if you got the switch, you pull the config, maybe it's password 7, and yes, it is out there. But if not, it's usually problematic to crack them because now you have time to crack it. Well, now you have an internal password potentially to every single piece of network equipment that is there. Well, not even talking about advanced threat actors, but if you can actually get to a management console of a router and then start redirecting the traffic, yes, the attack is, you need enough bandwidth to sort their traffic being routed through you and stuff like that. But this was a couple of days ago. There's still potentially 3,500, 611 devices out there that is vulnerable to this. And it's really just one open port on the internet. And as I said, we popped a rather large client because they were not aware that there's 2 of their switches in a data center were exposed to the internet. Their router config added password was the same across everything. So again, a tool for IT managers that, again, this has been around since, I marked it out at approximately 2013. And as I said, this is usually the first stop for people looking for OnePlus coming out. The Apache Struts issue. This is the first issue you're going to go to. You're going to look for the banner. There's all your potential clients. A gentleman we work with came up on a test. He found a file directory traversal. We went here, found somebody 4,000 some odd hosts that were vulnerable to that product. Information disclosure properly done, all that stuff. As I said, Recon NG from an IT manager standpoint, to give you that insight into your cyber footprint. May not make sense if you're a small single district or whatever, but excellent tool. One of the favorite modules I like of this thing is called the transparency, the SSL certificate transparency. Google wanted to help you. So they require that all of your systems have an association based off their SSL certificate, and you need to have that chain. Brilliant, right? You can go ahead and see what is being brought up in your servers. What is using your certificates. Well, I can see every single system that's out there, potentially, that I don't even have to touch anything behind your network or whatever. I go to use one of these tools that map Google's website, whatever. I type in IBM.com, and I'm now getting lists of host names of systems that have that SSL certificate associated. So again, this is something that you can utilize to help you start to map your cybersecurity profile, what hosts are out there. As I said, certificates are very good, especially on developer systems. If you have developers that are rolling out systems, these are very good ways of seeing. Google search. Here's a document that I came up with at Google search. The company employee badge, file type FTP. I found a 3-year-old employee handbook from a third-party vendor. Didn't tell me about their badges, but it told me the password policy. It told me all of their services, all the contact people that were still valid. Just hurry up. Here's another document. This was actually for a company, again, published it out on the internet, that actually provided out that valid user ID and password that was a valid Active Directory domain. Yeah. What was worse, it actually worked on the corporate VPN. But it was for a printer. So, you know, yeah, I mean, it's funny, but legacy thought processes, there's data out there, especially if you're a larger state agency, education agency, that is going to be utilized. Now, this is where I'm getting in. I want to make sure I get this. Password auditing. Okay, there are just known weak passwords that we're going to try. Summer 2016. We're going to try the day of the week and the year. We're going to try the company name 1, company name year, password 1. It just still works. There is utility that should be utilized by anyone having a Windows domain. It is built into 2008 plus, and we use it. It's safe to utilize, and it's literally 4 commands that you can easily pull up online that will pull out your Active Directory passwords out of your Active Directory. When we compromise a domain, this is what we're doing. You can also shadow copy. Shadow copy takes a little harder work, but it's safe. There are 2 tools that IT managers should know. This NS audit, it's by a company called Dayuch. Well, I pronounce them all, but and there's the website. What it does is actually will help you pull out the NIST, and it takes a word list to be able to brute force. So really, this tool is simple to use. Just one word of advice: delete the files it creates, because if you get compromised, the hacker will take those files. This just came out the other, not too long ago. DS internals is a PowerShell script. You can use DC sync. So you, as a domain admin, can actually run this with a word list of weak passwords, summer 2016, company. And it will come out and tell you exactly which users have weak, bad passwords. There's really no reason not at this point to audit your passwords as IT managers. Make it quarterly. You're changing your passwords every 90 days. Cycle through 30 minutes, every 30 days, looking for these weak passwords. Because of the fact that I'm going to show you quickly, there's some tools that use. First Suite, as I said, for web services, OWASP Snap does the same thing. There's a great tool called Spray, SH, by Jacob Wilkins at TrustWave, that will password spray your OWASP, your LinkedIn, or OWAP, OWA, sorry, your LinkedIn, a few other services, your Cisco VPN. It will take your user list, it will take your password, and go through. Running out of time? No? Oh, okay. 5 minutes? Okay. All right. Well, that's the way that's going to happen, right? Lights and powers is going to end. All right. As I said, both from Black Hill Security, Mail Sniper, excellent tool for brute forcing if you have Exchange or Outlook 365. Brilliant tool. Cannot say enough good things. As I said, Burp. Cool. It's that simple to reinforce a web service. And these are just not even just like OWA, any web services you have, any APIs that you have, take a look. People are going to password spray it if it's a service. All right, I'm going to have to go, I guess. 6 minutes. All right, tools, managers should know, PowerUp. This is a free tool by Lashoda. What this will do is look for what local attackers are going to, once they get on your system, what paths they have to privilege escalation. If you're using universal access control, running this against your golden builds will show you how an attacker can escalate from a restricted user to a privileged user. This should be looked at against all your systems and your golden builds. Literally, it's an import module, invoke all commands, and I'll show you in a second. All right. Responder or INVED. What this does is they act as rogue services on your networks, and it will cause and generate password hashes from your users. Why is this important to know? Because of the fact that if you have corporate laptops that go onto the Wi-Fi, onto Amtrak train, not that I sat on Amtrak, it didn't compromise the company because their employees traveled from Albany to New York City on Amtrak and hooked into the Wi-Fi that didn't have client isolation on. I'm saying, yes, I go out of scope. Well, correction, I have very liberal scope on what I do and what I then do with the information that's gathered. You running Responder on your corporate networks will show you what services, what laptops are looking for services that do not have that permission. That's why it's going back down to NetBuoy to broadcast. You're probably familiar, Windows will go ahead and use DNS, but then it will still revert down unless you disable using NetBuoy over TCP/IP. It's very documented on how to turn it off, but these are tools that when you have a pen test, that's the first thing they're going to run on it. Second thing they're going to run on it is Kerberos roasting, but we don't, that is slightly above this. INVADE does the same thing as Responder, it's a PowerShell version. Running as a low-level user doesn't have the same functionality. Responder is a great tool to teach people about abnormality. It has the F switch, which actually will prompt people when you're proxying their traffic, the pop-up window. Again, a defense against, hey, this is abnormal. Why am I being asked for my password? Because even if you lock down your systems, I'm going to skip this. This is host David Pig. It's great against cell phones. If you have a client that you want to attack, certain cell phones and laptops will actually go ahead and answer onto when you're dealing with the enterprise. Sorry, I'm just going to skip through that one. Oh yeah, visualization paths. So I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to go quickly. 2 minutes? All right, fine. Bloodhound. This will show you, red teamers don't run this, but US IT managers need to run this tool. It will show you every single path from your restricted users to your elevated users. It will also look at things like your Active Directory policies on what witnesses that an attacker can utilize. It may be more advanced for certain organizations and stuff like that, but it's a great tool. How important is visualization now? Microsoft has incorporated it into the ATA product. Also, the Enterprise Edition of Office 365, a number of tools to help you, but this ATA is showing you what paths can do it. And a great tool, actually added the Japan cert. To be honest, I enjoyed the Japan cert and reading about, looking at their material so much more than the US cert. I found it more informative and more detailed. One of the things Japan cert has just released is this tool, if I can see my notes, Log Tracer. It shows you, based off the syslogs, everyone logged on and how they logged on. So you can actually see, for free, how your privileged users are actually. Are they using their local workstation with a privileged account or not? How are they moving around systems? Are they using their non-restricted account to log into workstations? It's free, it's from the Japan cert. They also have great tools as far as document. Almost all the tools that a pen tester or a threat actor will use against you that are commercial, the Japan cert actually has listed out the artifacts. So that's what I enjoy them much better. Again, spotting the abnormal. If we're on our workstation that is locked down, we can't do anything about it, we're going to go to something like Threat Popper. We're just going to pop up a little message that says, give me your password. Because people are not trained to say, hey, this is abnormal. And it's really as simple as PowerShell commands there. Sorry, how much enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to put up all these slides up online. I always run into this, and I didn't get into the posh, but that's a tool I needed to that corporate blah, blah, blah. Well, I want to thank you. I apologize for running out of time. I always do this.